I turned 70 years old last spring, and to be honest with you, retirement was not what I expected. I thought it would be restful, peaceful, maybe even a little boring in a good way. But instead, I found myself feeling lost, like I had stepped off a train and wasn't sure which direction to walk next. After a lifetime of working, providing, and showing up every day, the silence was louder than I imagined. But through honest reflection, some difficult lessons, and a few surprising moments of joy, I started to see things differently. In this video, I will share the 7 biggest mistakes I made in retirement and how I turned them around. This is not theory. This is my life, and maybe, just maybe, it will help you with yours. 1. Retirement is not a full stop. When I first retired, I thought I had earned the right to do absolutely nothing. And for a while, that felt like freedom. No alarm clocks, no deadlines. I would wake up whenever I wanted, take long walks, sit by the window with coffee, and just let the days drift by. At first, I felt light, like I had finally put down the heavy weight I had carried for 40 years. But after a few weeks, that lightness started to feel more like emptiness. I began to wonder what day it was. I would catch myself watching the same news cycle over and over. I did not feel relaxed anymore. I felt irrelevant, like I had faded into the background of life. Nobody needed me to show up anymore. And I did not know who I was outside of my work. That was a hard realization, because for most of my adult life, my identity was tied to being a provider, a worker, a problem solver. When people asked what I did, I had an answer. Now I just said, I am retired, and it felt hollow. But the truth I discovered was this: retirement is not the end. It is not a full stop. It is a shift. It is a shift from productivity to purpose, from structure imposed by others to structure you create for yourself. It took me time, but I found new ways to be useful and connected. I started volunteering once a week at the local library. I help teenagers with math. I do not have a teaching degree, but I do have patience, and that seems to be enough. I fix old radios in my garage just for the joy of it. I even started journaling every morning, not because anyone told me to, but because I like the way it clears my head. These are not big things, but they give me rhythm. They give my days a shape, and more importantly, they give me a sense of being part of the world again. If you are newly retired, or even if you have been out of work for a few years, and you are feeling lost like I was, I want you to know, you do not need a 9-to-5 job to matter. But you do need something that pulls you forward each day. Purpose does not have to be grand. It just has to be yours. You might try mentoring someone, or joining a hobby group, or waking up each day with one small thing to do that you care about. Maybe you cook lunch for someone. Maybe you write a letter. Maybe you learn something new. The point is not how big it is. The point is that you are showing up for your life. Retirement is not about stepping back. It is about stepping in to a new version of yourself. One that is not defined by a job title or a paycheck, but by meaning. And that, to me, is more fulfilling than any promotion I ever received. 2. Thinking you have nothing left to give. There was a morning, not long after I turned 69 years old, when my grandson asked me how I met his grandmother. I was a little surprised. Kids today usually have their heads buried in screens. But he looked me in the eyes and asked like he really wanted to know. So I told him. I told him about the first time I saw her at a diner, how she laughed with her whole body, how I sat at the counter and ordered 2 coffees just to get her attention. I had not told that story in years. When I finished, he smiled and said, "Grandpa, you should write that down." And that is when it hit me. I have a lifetime of stories in me. Stories about love, about failure, about mistakes and lessons learned the hard way. I have entire decades that my grandkids will never understand unless I tell them. For a while, I thought those stories did not matter, that the world had changed too much, that my perspective was outdated. But you know what I realized? To the people who love you, your stories are not old. They are treasure. So I started writing one memory a week. Nothing fancy, just a page or two. Sometimes it is about growing up with 4 brothers in one bathroom. Sometimes it is about the day my youngest child left for college. Sometimes it is just about the way my mother used to hum in the kitchen. I do not write for strangers. I write for the people who will come after me. Because one day, they are going to want to know what it was like. And if I do not tell them, no one else will. But this is not just about stories. It is also about value. I used to believe that after retirement, I had nothing left to give, that my usefulness ended when I stopped bringing in a paycheck. That is a lie. I have given my neighbor advice on fixing a leaking faucet. I helped my niece through her first job interview. I showed a friend how to balance a checkbook. Yes, we still use those. And each time, I remember that I still have something inside me that can help someone else. Your value does not expire at 65. Your wisdom does not disappear when you leave the office. In fact, it might just be ripening now. More thoughtful, more nuanced, more honest. So do not tell yourself you are done. You are not done. You are experienced. And there are people, your family, your community, maybe even people you have not met yet, who need what you have to offer. It does not have to be perfect. It just has to be shared. 3. Avoiding change. Because it's scary. For a long time, I told myself I was not a tech person. Whenever someone mentioned a new phone or app or device, I would wave it off. I would say, I am too old for all that. And I believed it. I really did. The truth is, I was not avoiding technology because I could not learn it. I was avoiding it because I was afraid I would feel stupid. Nobody likes feeling behind. And when everything from grocery shopping to bank statements moved online, I felt like the world was running off without me. I did not want to ask for help because I thought it made me look weak. But over time, the cost of avoiding change became greater than the discomfort of learning something new. I could not see my grandkids often. They live in different states, busy with school and sports. I missed their birthdays, their stories, their little updates that used to come so naturally when we shared a dinner table. Then one day, my daughter handed me a small tablet and said, "Dad, we set this up for you. Just press this icon when you want to see us." I was nervous. My hands shook the first time I tried to open the app. But then I saw my granddaughter's face. Her gap-toothed smile filled the screen, and she said, "Hi, Grandpa." And just like that, the fear faded. In its place, I felt connected again. Since then, I have used that tablet to join a book club that meets virtually once a month. I have reconnected with an old Army buddy who moved to Arizona. I even learned how to stream documentaries and order groceries without stepping outside. These may seem like small victories, but for me, they were doorways into a world I thought I had lost access to. The truth is, change is hard at any age, but when you are older, it feels more personal. It feels like the world is telling you, this is not for you anymore. But that is not true. The world does not get to decide when we stop growing. We do. And here is what I learned. You do not have to master everything. You just have to stay open. Ask for help. Take your time. Let your kids or grandkids show you how to use the phone, or how to text, or how to look something up online. I know it can feel awkward, but you will be surprised how patient people are when they know you are trying. Do not rob yourself of connection because you are afraid to look foolish. You have learned harder things than this. You adapted through decades of change. This is just one more step in the same direction. And besides, there is a certain joy in learning something new, especially when no one expects you to. You surprise people. You surprise yourself. And slowly, you start to feel less like an outsider and more like a full participant in the life that is still unfolding around you. So yes, change is scary, but isolation is scarier. Take the leap. Let yourself be part of the world again. You have more than enough courage to figure it out. 4. Believing that slowing down means giving up. There was a time in my life when I could carry 2 bags of groceries in each hand, climb the stairs without holding the rail, and shovel the driveway in one go. Those days are behind me now. These days, I move slower. I lose my train of thought sometimes. I make lists just to remember what I was already supposed to do, and for a while, I hated that. I used to feel frustrated with my body. I would curse under my breath when I dropped something, or forgot where I left my glasses. I saw these moments as signs that I was slipping, like my usefulness had an expiration date and it was getting closer. But then something changed. One morning, I was out for a walk. I was moving slowly, as I always do now. A woman passed me, jogging with her headphones in. 10 years ago, I might have felt ashamed, like I was being left behind. But that day, I looked up at the trees. I noticed how the light came through the branches. I felt the crisp air in my lungs, and I thought, this is still mine. I am not who I was at 50. I do not need to be. Aging is not a loss. It is a shift. It is an invitation to live at a different pace, with different priorities. Now, instead of pushing through, I listen to my body. I stretch in the mornings. I joined a Tai Chi group at the community center, something I would have laughed at in my younger years. But it has brought me a kind of peace and balance I never had before. We move slowly, we breathe together, and we laugh a lot. Some of the people in my group walk with canes. Some need help getting to their cars. But we show up, and that is what matters. I also started gardening, not because I am great at it, but because it teaches patience. Plants do not rush. They do not demand. They grow as they are able, with the sun and water and care they receive. And that, I think, is how we are meant to grow in this season of life. Slowing down does not mean giving up. It means you are wise enough to know that you do not have to hurry to get where you are going. It means your energy is better spent on things that matter, like sitting quietly with a grandchild, or finishing a puzzle with your neighbor, or cooking a slow Sunday meal just because you feel like it. So no, I cannot do what I once did, but I can do what I can, with presence, with gratitude, and without apology. If you are struggling with this, let me tell you something I wish someone had told me. Your worth is not measured by your speed. Your days are not less valuable because they look different now. You are still here. You are still needed. You still belong. Take your time. Let the world move fast if it wants to. You have nothing to prove anymore. You're allowed to go gently, to live slowly, and to savor every quiet moment that comes your way. 5. Assuming you're financially stuck. For most of my working life, money meant security. I saved, I budgeted, I paid the bills on time, and put a little away when I could. When I retired, I thought I had done everything right, but the fear was still there, that quiet, persistent voice whispering, "What if it's not enough?" So I became cautious, too cautious. I would hesitate before buying a decent pair of shoes. I would skip going out to lunch even when I wanted to, just to save $20. My kids invited me on a short trip once, and I almost said no. Not because I did not want to go, but because I felt guilty spending money on myself. I had slipped into a mindset of scarcity. Even though I was not broke, I was afraid of becoming that way, and the fear made my life smaller. Eventually, my oldest daughter sat me down. She said, "Dad, you've worked hard your whole life. You're not being reckless by enjoying a little bit of it now." That conversation made me think. I realized I was treating money as if my only goal was to leave it behind. But what about living? What about experiencing? What about joy? That is when I decided to meet with a financial advisor, not to chase big investments or complicated strategies, but to simply understand what I had, what I needed, and what I could use to enjoy the time I have left. The truth is, most retirees are not stuck. They are scared, and understandably so. We come from a generation that knows how fragile things can be. We saw downturns, layoffs, rising costs. But living in constant fear of running out is not the same as being responsible. It is just another way of shrinking your life. After that meeting, I made a new kind of budget, a joy budget. It is not extravagant. It includes one nice dinner out each month, a painting class I always wanted to take, a weekend visit to the mountains every now and then, a little money set aside to send birthday gifts to the grandkids. These things do not cost much, but they fill my life with meaning. I also found free and low-cost ways to enjoy life that I had never noticed before. Community concerts, free museum days, potlucks at the senior center. I realized I did not have to spend big to feel rich. I just had to be willing to use what I already had. If you feel like you cannot enjoy your retirement because of finances, I want you to ask yourself, is it truly about the numbers, or is it about the fear? Talk to someone you trust. Review your finances realistically. Then make space, not just for survival, but for joy. Because money is not just about what you leave behind. It is about how you live while you are still here. You earned more than just a pension. You earned time. You earned freedom. You earned the right to enjoy simple pleasures without guilt. And if there is one thing I know now, it is this. The best investment you can make in retirement is not in the stock market. It is in your daily happiness. 6. Letting your world get smaller. After I stopped working, the world got quiet. Too quiet. At first, I welcomed the silence. No meetings, no phone calls, no interruptions. But slowly, the silence turned into loneliness. The kind you do not notice all at once. It just creeps in, one empty afternoon at a time. I stopped getting invited to certain gatherings. I lost touch with friends I used to see every day at work. Some moved away. Some passed on. Others drifted off in the busyness of life. Before I knew it, my world had shrunk to the size of my living room and the occasional phone call from family. That's when I realized community does not just happen. You have to build it, especially as you get older. So I made a promise to myself, one phone call a week. That was my starting point. I pulled out an old address book. Yes, I still had one. And found the number of an old friend I had not spoken to in over 10 years. I was nervous to call, but when he picked up, his voice lit up. We talked for almost an hour. That one call reminded me that I was not as alone as I had started to believe. From there, I joined a weekly lunch group at the senior center. The first week, I sat by myself. The second week, someone offered me a seat at their table. By the third week, I was bringing cookies to share. It took time, and yes, it was awkward at first. But slowly, my world began to stretch again. Not because people came knocking on my door, but because I opened it. Connection does not have to be big. It can be a neighbor waving at you each morning, a smile from the cashier who sees you every Tuesday, a handwritten note sent to someone you love. These small moments are what rebuild the web of human connection that retirement often frays. And for those of us who have lost people, spouses, siblings, friends, it is even more important. Loneliness is not just a feeling. It is a health risk. Studies have shown that isolation in older adults can be as harmful as smoking. That surprised me, but it made sense. We are built to belong to each other. I will not lie to you. Putting yourself out there takes courage, but the reward is worth it. You begin to laugh again, to share stories, to feel seen. So if your world has gotten smaller, do not wait for someone else to change that. Start small. call a friend, join a group, sit beside someone new. You still have so much to offer. And believe me, there are people out there who are quietly waiting for someone like you to say hello. 7. Thinking it's too late to begin again. If there's one lie that I think steals more joy from retirees than anything else, it's this: that it's too late to start something new, too late to learn, too late to grow, too late to begin again. I used to believe that too. I thought that after 65 years old, life was about wrapping things up, not opening new doors. That my best days, my most interesting stories, were already behind me. That starting something new belonged to the young. But here's what I have learned. Every day you wake up is not the end of anything. It is the beginning of something. It might look different than what came before, but it is still yours to shape. I began gardening when I was 68 years old. Never had a green thumb. Never even thought to try. But one spring, I was standing in my backyard looking at a bare patch of dirt, and I thought, why not? I went to the store, bought some tomato seeds, and dug into the soil like I knew what I was doing. Of course, I had no clue. The first season, I overwatered. The second, I forgot to stake the plants. But every morning, I would go out and check on them, talk to them like they were old friends. And when that first ripe tomato came in, I held it like it was gold. It was not about the tomato. It was about becoming someone who tries new things again. That small garden grew into something much bigger in my life. I started paying more attention to the seasons. I began walking more, reading more, caring more about the little details. And I realized, I am not done. I am just different now. And that's a beautiful thing. Maybe for you, it's not gardening. Maybe it's learning to play an instrument you never had time for. Maybe it's finally writing that story you've been holding in your heart for years. Maybe it's traveling somewhere new, even if it's just the next town over. Maybe it's falling in love with something you never gave yourself permission to explore. You're not too old. You're just getting started in a different chapter. And I promise you, your curiosity is still there. It might be buried under years of routine or grief or fatigue, but it's not gone. It just needs a little space to breathe again. We often think change has to be dramatic to matter, but most beginnings are quiet. They happen on a random Tuesday afternoon when you decide to walk into that art class, or sign up for that community group, or pull out the recipe book your spouse used to love. It's not too late. You may move slower, but you see deeper now. You may forget things, but you remember what truly matters. You may have aches and pains, but you've earned every one of them through a life fully lived. So let me ask you, what have you been putting off because you told yourself the moment had passed? Whatever it is, I want you to know, you still have time. Time to learn, time to create, time to grow, time to become someone new. Your age does not limit your imagination. If anything, it gives you a deeper well to draw from. This is not about chasing youth. It's about embracing the richness that comes with age and choosing to keep your spirit alive. You're not done. You're not finished, and some of your most meaningful days might still be ahead. If you've made it this far with me, I want to thank you. Truly. I do not take it lightly that you gave your time to listen, not just to these stories, but to the heart behind them. The truth is, I did not always feel like I had something worth saying. Retirement, for me, started with a lot of silence, a lot of space to think, to grieve what was gone, to question who I was without the title, without the busy schedule, without the steady rhythm of work. But now, I understand something I didn't before. Retirement is not the end of your story. It's the first page of a new chapter, and it can be one of the most meaningful if you let it.